in association with
In the heart of Southeast Asia, Indonesia stands at a pivotal moment. With over 275 million people spread across thousands of islands, the vision of equitable and sustainable economic growth demands one critical foundation: financial inclusion. Inclusive finance is not just about access to banks. It's about empowering individuals, unlocking potential, and ensuring that no one is left behind in Indonesia's economic journey. Digital transformation can bridge vast divides between rural and urban, formal and informal, men and women, creating a truly inclusive financial ecosystem for all. The Asta Cita vision calls for sovereignty, prosperity, and justice. Financial inclusion sits at its core, offering tools for resilience, pathways out of poverty, and opportunities for every Indonesian to thrive. Yet, the challenge remains urgent. Only half of Indonesians hold a financial account, far below our neighbors. The target, 93.3% inclusion by 2029. The time to act is now. From bold policies to grassroots innovation, from digital identity systems to public-private collaboration, the road to financial inclusion demands unified action and smart solutions. Today, we bring together leaders from policy, innovation, and community to answer one pressing question: how do we unlock Indonesia's economic growth through inclusive finance? Let's build a future where opportunity is accessible to all, no matter who you are or where you live.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very big welcome to the Big Idea Forum. It's truly an honor to have you all here today as we gather to explore a vital and transformative topic: unlocking economic growth, the role of financial inclusion in Asta Cita. Financial inclusion is not just a policy goal, it's a cornerstone of equitable development. As Indonesia charts its path towards Asta Cita, a vision anchored in sovereignty, justice and prosperity, building an inclusive financial ecosystem becomes ever more urgent. Now, the government's ambitious target of reaching 93.3% financial inclusion by 2029 also signals a national commitment to leave no one behind. But the road ahead requires innovation, collaboration, of course, the courage to undergo reform. Now, together we will explore what it truly takes to make inclusive finance not only a strategy but also a lived reality for millions of Indonesians. So it's my great pleasure this morning and today to introduce our distinguished panel. First of all, we're honored to have, let's have the lights on here, Frederica Widyasari Dewi, Chief Executive of Market Conduct Supervision, Financial Education and Consumer Protection at OJKB Financial Services Authorities. Very big welcome, and who we hope will share the regulator's perspective on consumer trust, education, and also systemic safeguards in inclusive finance. Once again, welcome Bu Kiki, as she is affectionately known to the show. And we also have Brooke Patterson, Indonesia Country Lead for Digital Public Infrastructure and Inclusive Financial Systems at the Gates Foundation, whose work focuses on building inclusive digital rails to support lasting transformation. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you.
Welcome
Pleasure to be here.
Indonesia.
So,
Great
thank you.
pleasure to have you with us. And we're also pleased to welcome Shuahela Fabia Hakim, also known as Ella, Country Director of the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, a key contributor to Indonesia's Sustainable Inclusive Finance Guidebook and National Advisory Frameworks. And Ella is also a good friend to the Big Idea Forum. Welcome, Ella, to the show. And last and certainly by no means least, Yasmin Melia Sembiring, Executive Director from Asosiasi Fintech Pendanaan Bersama Indonesia, AFPI, which has been instrumental in expanding access to credit for underserved communities while promoting ethical and responsible fintech practices very much needed. Welcome, Yasmin, to the show. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, as this is a collaborative forum, there will also be an opportunity for you all in the audience to ask questions and maybe give your own perspectives to our panel. So I encourage you to take notes and also to take part in the discussion. So without further ado, to set the stage for our discussion, I'd like to invite Bu Kiki to share her perspective on the evolving landscape of financial inclusion in Indonesia. Bu Kiki, as we know, the government has a very high and ambitious target. You know, economic growth, 8%, zero poverty, and also 93.3% of financial inclusivity by 2029. Give us an update and what is OJK doing to make all these targets come true?
First of all, thank you, Mbak Desi, for having us again, OJK again in this Big Idea Forum. And we really appreciate that you bring this topic, this very important topic, how financial inclusion can boost the economic development and to reduce poverty. And I will show you the latest number of, we just did a national survey together with Statistics Indonesia, BPS, that the result is very encouraging all of us, that the number of financial literacy index now is 66.46%. It's increased like 1% from last year. And the interesting part is the inclusion national index is 80%. This we measure all sectors that under OJK supervision, also payment system under BI. But if we use the parameter that is used by the government, including BPJS number and also cooperative, the number is 92%.
92%.
Yes. So actually, we are very optimistic that we can achieve even the Gold Indonesia goal in 2045, that inclusion number is 98% for all people in Indonesia. So we are very optimistic on that. So talking about Asta Cita, we see the Asta Cita is a brilliant, it's a great goal for Indonesia. And we can see here how financial inclusion, financial literacy can help the Asta Cita achieve the all stated in Asta Cita. For example, in Asta Cita mission number 2, 3, 4, and 6, mentioned about employment, quality employment, and then development for women, you know, those, and then people from, you know, daerah 3T, underserved, and then how the youth, they focus also youth, and how to do development starting from a village. And actually, we are all with the financial inclusion efforts and programs, we really in line with this Asta Cita. For example, we have also called TPAKD, Tim Percepatan Akses Keuangan Daerah, that together OJK with all stakeholders, with government, regional government, province and city, we have now 552 TPAKD team. Actually, this is an inclusion team, to help people in the all region Indonesia. Actually, all region Indonesia already have TPAKD. We help the people how to improve inclusion, how to make people have access to the financial sectors. Because if we talk about UMKM, MSME, it's nonsense without financial inclusion, without access to the financial sectors. So we really, together with the regional government, we help people there how to get access from financial sector, from banking, even capital market. We have like SGF for small capital needed, and also from insurance, how to help, for example, farmers to be insured, you know, and fishermen and other underserved segment. So back to the survey that we have done, actually there are 4 segments that we have to be focused. First is women. We are all here, women, except you, bro. So we put put women as one of our main target for education and inclusion. Why? We all know that women is the center of the family. women can help, to have economic value for the company, although for the family, although they're at home and women do things, like they educate children and everything. So we put emphasis on women. The second is people in the rural region. So we do survey compared to people in the city and the rural. So, and the third one is segment of age. We can see, maybe related to Bu Yasmin later, how segment from age 15 to 17 need more attention, and also elderly, 59 age above. And the fourth one is segment like fishermen, farmer, and everything. So we have 10 priority segment for OJK to do all the education, literacy, inclusion efforts, including those 4 segments that we have to pay attention with. So I believe that with all the collaboration, synergy, we help Indonesia people to reduce poverty, to improve, to get the welfare through financial inclusion. So we have to work together.
Okay, and this figure, you said 92%, but actually it's 98% in terms of the rupiah. And how much are we talking about when it comes to, providing these services?
I think we have to see how the financial sector is vary. We talk about banking sectors, capital market. We have to see for example, capital market is now 11,000 trillion capitalization, banking sector and others. So when we talk about our program ourselves, for example, in TPAKD, we have what's so-called Again Loan Shark program, for example. We already have 1.6 million borrowers, constitute of almost 50 trillion rupiah. That's not small at all for women in the rural area, for people in the region. Instead of they go when they need help for to help for mediums MSME and other, rather than to go to loan shark, they can use this facility from the TPAKD, so they can help those people to get easy financial access, but with in a good way. So it's formal, because we provide prohibit them to get informal and also illegal access for financial.
But do you see the reduction in using loan sharks for accessing
loan
funds?
Shark is always everywhere.
So,
but
so it doesn't actually impact the.
Yes. Yeah, of course it's impacting, because previously what people need is access, speed, but they even sometimes they don't mind to pay like high interest. Yeah, but actually it's killing them, right? So we teach them how to get formal access, through TPAKD efforts. So we can securities crowdfunding, for example, in capital market. Instead of maybe banking is too high for them, because it's a journey, right? First, maybe using fintech peer-to-peer lending, which is sometimes when it is legal, formal, supervised by OJK, the interest rate is also we have a regulation for that, and then we can help them also later with through for example like PNM, ultra micro, women and others. So we think this is very helpful. Security crowdfunding, back to security crowdfunding, is when people need a small capital, they can raise to capital market. So this is the proof that OJK really support MSME, for example, and we really support the access for people. Everyone can access financial sector, although we, as I mentioned, they have a journey, right? First, maybe the kind of financial sectors, later maybe in the bank, and later in the capital market.
As they develop and as they grow. And I'm interested, the focus is on women, people in the rural areas, the farmers, the fishermen, and also the young people. These are obviously first-time borrowers. Now, obviously, when you lend money, you expect them, to actually do something with it that would create, whether it's income for themselves or create jobs, and also, elevate their economic status. Is there some kind of study that says that these loans are actually are they the right products and targeted to the very needs for them to actually improve their livelihood. Remember, the target is zero poverty. And are these loans sustainable, and that it's being used as stepping stones in order for people to better themselves?
We teach people, we educate people. So now we give easiness for people to get access in the financial sectors. But first we educate them what is needed by you. Might be different from others, which one you need. So
it's bottom up basically.
Yes.
Listening to them.
Yeah, listening to them. What do they need? So for example, the same segment but different region might be different as well, because they have different values, different belief. Yeah. So this we educate them how to understand yourself first. What you need, whether you need you have a small, medium businesses, whether you need that to do investment in the future and that. So we educate them different kind of products for different segment and different maybe age, educational background and everything. So we customized all this education for different level, different segment and different region. So this is very unique, Mbak Desi. When we talk about Indonesia, maybe different from we talk region in Europe. They have a kind of the same segment, easy region to reach. Indonesia, we have more than 17,000 islands. We have a demographic challenge. We have a geographic challenge. So I think the key is we do customization for each segment to reach the financial sector. So we have to understand what they need, and then we educate them. And once they already get the financial access, we also not leaving them, but we work with them. So to help them understand financial access is not the end, but how you manage it, how you make to change the life of the family, for example. So we work with them. So it's not only give education and inclusion at the time, but we also nurturing them.
It's a journey.
Yes, it's a journey.
Like what about the non-performing loan aspect? I mean, do you see a reduction in NPL?
NPL is still manageable now in banking sector as well, and also in financing. NPL is in a good shape now, so we don't really worry about that, Mbak Desi. And for sure, if we see, if we talk about women, there is a proof that when we talk about a group of women, the NPL is very, very, very small. Even in some companies say that for women group, the NPL is sometimes zero, because
they're more responsible.
Yeah, they're more responsible. Sorry, bro.
I mean, bank is focused.
Yeah, they're very responsible, and they work for the family, not for themselves and others.
And they don't use the money so much for gambling and.
No. But the one that we also have to really look at when there is a digitalization, we talk about digitalization, the easiness of people to approach, that the responsible behavior also we have to teach them. Because with the easiest access for them to get financing from the finance sectors, we have to also teach them to be responsible in the way they behave in the financial sectors. Because we have SLIC, it's like OJK checking. If they don't behave responsible in the finance sector, their name will be recorded in our system. So when they propose for finance from bank and finance company, there will be bad record. So we really teach them to be responsible in the way they do in the financial sector.
But also for the fintechs, the providers, you have to make sure that they are giving products that are fair and transparent and will not result in moral hazard, surely. So tell us a little bit, just very quickly.
It is very interesting, Mbak Desi. So OJK, we have what's so-called internal twin peak supervision. So we ask financial company not only comply on the prudential aspect, but also in market conduct aspect. With that, we encourage company that is under supervision by OJK, not only they doing good in the businesses, the prudential aspect, but also in market conduct. So we ask Bu Jasmine with the API friends, to be responsible as well. So not only giving them access, but make sure whether the potential customer or the customer you are targeted is suitable, the product that you sell suitable for them or not. Sometimes when people get easiness to access to finance sector, sometimes they don't need the money, and they just do for shopping, for other things that is not needed. And the second is in market conduct supervision, we make sure that all financial companies, they have to give the information to the potential customer. They have to say not only the benefit but also the risk, the interest and everything. So we make sure that this with the digitization approach customer with the right way, because we do the market conduct supervision as well.
Otherwise, you just close them down, right?
Yes.
Blacklist them.
Yes.
Okay. Brooke, let's open the discussion up a bit, from the Gates Foundation, obviously as a partner, and to the government of Indonesia, and also expert when it comes to the digital infrastructure for inclusive financing system. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you see Indonesia, and also how can the foundations or institutions such as the Gates Foundation can help Indonesia reach its very ambitious targets.
So, well, thank you. And first off, thank you so much for having me here, and for the privilege of being able to sit alongside three distinguished women on the stage with me here today, and for the opportunity to talk about, as you said in the opening, this very important topic. So certainly at the Gates Foundation, as was said in the opening, we see financial inclusion as essential to linking people to the economy and to economic opportunity, and increasing resilience, reducing poverty, and long-term increasing opportunity for individuals, households, and communities. And so as we think about where at the Gates Foundation we can provide support, input to countries like Indonesia, we also work around the world. We are first and foremost steeped in sort of some of our founding principles, right? And so we were founded by Bill and Melinda Gates. Now 25 years ago, we're coming up on our 25th anniversary, which is a big milestone for us. But they always believed that there was a potential to leverage innovations of all kinds, medical innovations, technological innovations, digital innovations, to solve the world's hardest problems, and whether that was access to essential vaccines or access to financial services. And so when we come at these challenges, we really first think about what are the digital foundations that help extend the reach of these services to people who are most vulnerable and most in need. With the principle that through technology, you can do sort of two core things. One is you can extend the reach, right? And so you get away from being constrained by physical presence, but then also reduce the cost. And so increasing access and reducing the cost of these services. To get there, you have to have sort of the basic enablers, right? And so we talk about digital public infrastructure.
The connectivity aspect.
Yes. As sort of the foundational element of this. And even before digital public infrastructure was a term, the foundation has been working in this area, thinking about payments infrastructure, thinking about ID infrastructure, now turning to thinking about possibility of data and data exchange within the economy between individuals and businesses. And so those are the three key foundational pieces: ID, payments, and ultimately data exchange. And so we work closely with country governments to support the development of these systems. Now in Indonesia, for example, BI has been very progressive on developing the payment systems. And so BI Fast, CRIS are wonderful examples of exactly the types of efforts the foundation would support. But because BI is so progressive, we've not had to come in, or we've not partnered with them in this way, because we are very supportive of what they're already doing. However, we see potential to support on the ID system. And so in Indonesia, you have deep penetration of the KTP, right? 95, 98% of KTP ownership, but that ID is not digital. And so how do we think about making that ID digital? And so when we think about that, it is, and going back to my initial statement about cost and reach, right? And so when someone has a digital ID, when they can authenticate themselves remotely using biometrics, whether that's facial recognition or a fingerprint, you dramatically reduce the cost of reaching that person with services. And so if you're a financial service provider, right now, if someone wants to open an account, they have to go to a physical presence, they have to fill out paperwork, they have to...
Yeah, the know your customer.
The know your customer requirements, exactly. India is a great example of what you can do with a digital ID. If you are an Indian citizen, low income, rural, urban, wealthy, doesn't matter, you can go in and say, I want to open a financial account. You give your thumbprint, and it takes 3 minutes for you to open an account, and only about 30 cents or so for all the checking between the cost of the ID system as well as the cost of the provider. It dramatically opens up the potential to reach and serve customers, because if it costs you $1, $2, $5, $10 in operational expenses and the cost of getting an authentication from the ID system, you are not going to serve low-income customers or rural customers, right? Because you're not going to be able to make that money back, or at least not easily. And so we really see digital ID as the cornerstone of that, of increasing access. And so we've been working with Dukcapil here in Indonesia in collaboration with the World Bank.
Which means that everything has to be integrated, obviously, the database. You can't
Yes.
have, sort of multiple, and also, the authenticity, because, things like, fake IDs and so on and so forth, that could be a problem down the road.
So, well, I mean, and this is the amazing part about when you think about digital ID and biometrically enabled digital identity, right? You are verifying who you are using biometrics that cannot be duplicated, cannot be cheated or replicated, right? So right now, if I go to Google and I type in KTP, right? I will get back images of hundreds of legitimate KTP cards that have been scanned and brought into the internet. So I could, in theory, use that to open an account and conduct fraudulent transactions. However, if it is digital and biometrically enabled, I can't fake someone's fingerprint. I can't fake someone's iris, and I cannot fake someone's, as we get into sort of more sophisticated forms of facial recognition where there's liveness testing. You can't fake that either. And so you have, as a citizen, you are much more secure because you know that people are going to be less able to steal your identity. As a provider of services, whether that's a bank or a government, you're much more certain that the person who is applying for a bank account or for government benefits is the person who they say they are.
Okay, but also, we have to make sure that it's foolproof. It's not hackable, and it's not, I mean, it's just the trust level here, I think, could be sort of a bit of a problem. Could you tell us some of the best practices where everybody sort of like, yay, let's have let's have all our biometrics and, like happily comply and quite willing, and it results in sort of positive.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, and that trust piece is key, right? And so, and where...
Finance is all about trust.
Right, and it is, at the end, it is trust. And we actually believe and have seen in other countries, which I'll get to in a moment, that having a digital ID with citizens' biometric data actually can improve trust in government services because there's less error, more inclusion, easier access. But yes, there is that trust hurdle to overcome. So if you look at countries like India, for example, and India is often held up as one of the prime examples of this digital journey for digital public infrastructure with their Aadhaar and UPI for payments. They have, in a much larger country of 1.4 billion people, right, have included all of their adults in this system. And people have become so accustomed to using Aadhaar and using a fingerprint or other form of authentication to access basic services that it makes their life so much better and so much easier, whether it's accessing government services, accessing private services, that it has actually increased trust in government and increased trust in providers. And we think that that journey can be replicated in other markets, as we are mindful of the realities of risk to personal data privacy. And so Indonesia is well down that path in terms of the personal data privacy law. You do need to think about cybersecurity and other aspects to make sure citizen data is safe, but those things are also underway.
So when it comes to creating an effective and also reliable building blocks of this public infrastructure, digital infrastructure, it's not only the trust, but actually so that it works.
Yes.
It doesn't have glitches.
Right.
But should it be sort of like a centralized thing where if something happens, then everything just sort of, stops? bit like, when electricity, you have power cut out and then, you can't access anything, you can't get on the train and so on. Or should it be sort of like, broken up, and where, the government takes part, but also the private sector takes part? And because at the moment we're building, for example, in Indonesia, many data centers.
Correct.
So how should it work so that we have the ease of use, the low cost, but at the same time, just in case,
Well, I mean, certainly if you're talking about, digital infrastructure, you need to build in redundancy and to make sure that if there is any fault or loss within a single data center, that it is backed up elsewhere, so that it doesn't become a terminal loss or a big risk to the system. Speaking about payment systems first, you do want to have that centralized. You want to have a single shared rail that all financial service providers, payments providers are able to connect to, because that interoperability and that single connection point is how you drive efficiency and connectivity through the economy. On the ID system side, there are still evolving models, and so if you look at Adhar, for example, is very much a centralized model. If you look at what's emerging in Indonesia with the IKD under Dukcapil's leadership, that is also a centralized model. And we've seen those work very effectively. There are other markets we're thinking about a more federated model, where you have different entities that are given permission to provide digital ID.
Or different payment gateways.
So and on the payment side, we don't encourage that kind of bifurcation of the payments rails, because it is inefficient from a cost perspective. It also means that perhaps all institutions aren't able to connect to each other, because we want to make sure that if you are with Bank BRI and I have a Dana account, for example, that you can send money seamlessly, right? And so if you're participating in one payment system and you're participating in another, then that creates frictions, inefficiencies, costs that we don't want to see. ID systems, there's different models which we're seeing emerging. But ultimately, the principles still apply. Secure, low cost, biometrically enabled, digital, so that citizens can access and benefit from those services.
Okay, it's interesting, because I was recently in Sumba, and it's and you see it's very much a rural part of Indonesia, and we go to these sort of traditional houses, literally traditional houses where they sell their local crafts and so on and so forth. And, we were kind of worried, how are we going to pay for this? And they all have their little QR code,
yes.
Which is amazing, because it means that they can actually, sell, and they can create, increase their economy and have access to whatever it is, and for us tourist visitors, it makes it so much easier. You don't have to worry about bringing cash and so on and so forth, which is the way it goes these days.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean, in that development
no
of CRIS, which was launched in May of 2019, right, by the central bank governor, and the development from 2019 to today of CRIS and the broad acceptance, and there's still a lot of room for that to grow, but it is exactly the types of innovations we love to see, because just as you said, you don't have to worry about whether you have cash. You don't have to worry about whether Ibu is using one account versus another, because you can just scan the QR code and it doesn't matter. It goes from your account to her account seamlessly. And then also importantly, it creates that data trail, right? So that later it's like, okay, we see that she's conducting transactions. This is her income.
So there is
it becomes a foundation for credit.
Transparency. Although you do have to have the gadgets to go with it. So that's another thing, But fortunately, these things are costing cheaper. Ella, let's go to Tony Blair Institute. You have sort of the financial inclusion mapping study. Now, tell us, what are the core recommendations, and what do we need to do in order to get everybody on the map?
By now, as you introduced myself as a big fan of the Big Idea Forum, right?
Big friend.
And also fans as well. So I think in Tony Blair Institute, we always believe that technology is the enabler of the government today, right? It's a great enabler. So the policy recommendation that we help develop for the government, it consists of two frameworks, right? One is what we call as the targeted segments approach, which is what Ibu Kiki earlier mentioned, that we focus on, 7, 10 priority segments, including women, the disabled communities, those people who live in Sumba, in the 3T area, right? So the beauty of what the government and the financial regulator and the central bank, right, that they have done today is the collaboration. So the collaboration that has been done, it's now compared to, let's say, 10 years ago in this space, is way better. Hence, the approach that is being taken is more tailored to the journey of each of these segments. From the government standpoint, we have seen so much progress on, let's say, for example, there is this presidential regulations number 114 to 2020, where it has identified these targeted segments, right? The 7 targeted segments. So the approach has been taken more on a bottom-up and more on a very specific and customized journey for each of the segments. So there's a progress there. That's the first framework of the book itself. The second part of the recommendations that we help prepare together with the government is that the cross-segments approach, right? These cross-segments include enablers. Enablers is something what we call as, what Brooke mentioned earlier, the 3 easy pillars of financial inclusion: access, usage, and consumer protections, right? Those are the cross-enabler thing. On access, as simple as, I think everyone here must have remembered around a decade ago we have the tragic iktp, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be the bearer of the bad news here, and please don't shoot the messenger, but that's the bad news. The good news, with the technology now, the digital ID is very close to be reached in a way that when it comes to technology, it's already available, right? Aldar, name it, there's everything that you need now. It can be enabled by this technology. The challenge, though, is on one thing, which again, this is the elephant in the room, and please don't shoot me as the messenger. One best practice that we learn globally on how you increase access is to ensure that you have a free digital ID. What does it mean? It means that when someone is actually using that digital ID, they don't have to pay. Just like when you open a bank account, you still need to pay materai, right? 10,000, right? For the eKYC that you mentioned earlier. There is an idea from government to actually charge something, right? To not necessarily directly to the people, but to, let's say, the private sector provider, right? And that's charging something, it's not helpful. So that on the digital ID part, where we from the Tony Blair Institute believe if Indonesia wants to reach the ambitious target, it has to come on the basis that there's no cost to the people, right? So that's on digital ID.
But so where should the cost come? At the end of the day, if it's not cost of the people, it's cost of the taxpayers' money, right? I mean, that money has to come from somewhere, and if you times 10,000 materai with 100 million users, that's quite a lot of money.
So I wanna, while you're bringing in the topics of numbers and data, let me bring you a bit of perspective here. And I love numbers, right? So on the number set, let's say we use an assumption, the current real assumptions of charging 8,000 rupiah. That's the idea, right? Of government to get what we call as PNBP, penerimaan negara bukan pajak, from this eKYC process. So they want to charge 8,000 to whatever private sector providers lah for the eKYC process. Let's times 8,000 to 280 million people. Roughly around 2.2 trillion lah, or 140 million US dollar, right? Roughly, let's say. And you talk about data center earlier. So the idea of this PNBP is to be able for the government to pay or to cover some cost of the data center. The fact of the matter, the cost of the data center itself in Indonesia will be the total 1.6 billion rupiah. Oh, sorry, 1.6 billion US dollar. So 140 divided by 1.6, it's less even than, 10% or 1% actually of the cost, right? So is that a right hypothetical question? Let me give you another perspective of the India model. So what Brooke mentioned earlier about the ability of government of India to expand the access to reach 1.4 billion people, by today, they've seen the usage of that eKYC generating 535 billion US dollar. 535 billion US dollar. Okay, let's say Ella, it's not 1.4 billion people. It's 280 million. That's divided by, let's say, 20%, right? That's already still like, $50 billion. And then we assume that $50 billion, we take 20% of the tax, and it's still $5 billion versus $140 million. So it's very simple math. So for us in Tony Blair Institute, we give a pragmatic approach to government. We say, look, we want to make it work. We want to achieve that 8%, 98% target. For us to be able to do that, let's be smart in a way that do not take the small amount now. Think about the longer term of that $535 billion that you can get if you enable a free access for the people.
Okay, going back to the financial inclusion mapping, I think we all agree that the 3-tier, which is the outer lying, the left behind, and those with remote access, and accessibility is still very much a problem. It's not equal. There is still a digital divide, obviously, in this country, whereas the majority of those who need access, we're not talking about people in the cities, is those very people. How can we accelerate this digital infrastructure, the building, and what kind of things do we need in order to create a much sort of inclusive in terms of reducing the digital gap?
Thank you for asking that question. And I want to use this opportunity to applaud the effort by OJK, actually. They have this program called Desa Eki, Desa Ekosistem Keuangan Inklusif. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Ibu Kiki.
Right.
It is still happening until today. And it's a beautiful program because it touches so many layers, right, from that infrastructure. So they try to combine all of these cross segments, infrastructure, and then the usage, making sure that the people are being guided on not only being able to access, but also use much more diverse financial products. Not only they can have a saving account, but as a fisherman, they can access the productive loans, right, through the payment or whatever. And then they also can use insurance, right? So that's on the usage part. And on the consumer protection, again, OJK is their role and responsibility, right? So all in all to say, for us to be able to really give meaningful intervention to people in 3T era, think about a very localized, real approach like Desa Eki, where we can really go to people, understand what's their biggest pain points, and then really do something that is beneficial for the people. So for that, again, big, huge respect for the OJK.
Do you have, an examples of best practice where it really, really works and it does actually make, changes to people's economic, activities?
There are couple of. You mentioned Grameen Bank, right, earlier,
which is in Bangladesh.
In Bangladesh, and also in, India, right? They've done that digital ID access in such a very short time frame.
But is there one like a prototype that we can use in Indonesia, and an example from your research?
I went to Estonia actually, and we do a lot of, obviously, okay, if we say a comparison that is very much like Indonesia, there is none with the 17,000, right? Yeah. But if you want to see really the best practice, so one fun fact, in Estonia, 99% of the public services, basically they are conducted online. Meaning with just one digital ID, you can submit your tax report, your annual tax report in less than 3 minutes, right? Why? Because your bank account is actually connected to your tax system. The fun part is the 1% that there is only one public service that cannot be done online, which is when you get divorced. unfortunately. You still need to go and see, you are the two people that want to. But all in all to say, there are a lot of good benchmark. Estonia is one example where government can really, really change the life of people and provide that seamless, including the inclusive financial system itself.
Okay, well, let's over to you, Yasmin, from the FinTech Association. I mean, you tell us what's happening on the grounds, and tell us a little bit about what does the association do, and what lessons learned, and what can we do to improve not just basic access, but also ensuring the products are fair, transparent, and there's the responsibility aspect is also, and the protection aspect is very much part of the work that you do.
All right. First of all, thank you so much, Mbak Desi Anwar, for having AFPI in these very relevant discussions. I'm really glad to be here representing Pindar, a growing force in ensuring greater access to financial inclusion in the grassroots levels, right? For the benefit of the doubt, in case there's people here that doesn't really understand what Pindar is, allow me to explain a little bit. Pindar is actually a financial digital solutions that connects people who need access to credit with those who have the ability and willingness to fund them, right? And we are doing so within an online platform that is safe and regulated by the regulators. So AFPI, FinTech Peer-to-Peer Lending Associations, is the umbrella for all the licensed FinTech Peer-to-Peer Lending in Indonesia. We are mandated with two main prongs. The first one is growing the industry responsibly. It means we have compliance in place and etc., right? And the second one is actually put customer protection in the front and center. So since you have a greater audience, right, especially the one who in TV at home, please allow me to say this out loud. Pindar is really different from pinjol. Because when you talk about financial inclusion,
pinjol is like the online.
And like you said, right? We are from the grassroots level. I mean, Brooke and Mbak Ella have been talking big ideas, right? But I think big ideas need to start from groundwork level, right? And in the groundwork, right? What happened is the demand is out there. Some of it goes through Pindar, and because we still have, that literacy and education is, I think, very key to this point. So thank you to Bu Kiki. I think under her leadership, there's a lot of pivotal element, right? I think in AFPI last year we did close to 4,000 activities together with Gencarkan. There's this national gerakan, national cerdaskan keuangan, because that really matters. Because what happened is there's this area of pinjol, right, where the illegal one. There's independent research, so it's not from AFPI, that's saying 97% actually from the online lending goes to pinjol instead of the legal one, right? So that's a huge number. That one, it becomes very, very important, the lack of education and literations. We also, I think, should really appreciate because we have this OJK roadmap of FinTech peer-to-peer lending under Pak Agusman. It has been a clear 5-year roadmap of what this industry going to. I think in a nutshell, we may not be the only solutions out there for FinTech inclusions, right? But I think we could be the front and center in ensuring those that unbanked, those nobody left behind, I think is our main tagline, something like that. Mbak Desi Anwar.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your members and also who do they serve, and just give us a better idea on the kind of products and services and the feedback and just a profile of a typical transaction and also the typical customer that uses this platform.
Sure. So when you're talking about the journey, right, our members is usually the first timer. So before they are reaching to a bigger financial institution, we are usually the stepping stone for them to get into the financial institutions, right? And we have 96 members so far. 47% of it are productive loan. The rest are individual borrowers. But as you know, the Indonesian landscape is kind of really hard to actually differentiate between the individual. You know, I think majority SMSEs, right, is individual
Who are they
owners.
and where do they come from? And you know, especially for the first timers, in terms of the socio-economic background as well as the age group.
Yeah, so the age group, I think majority of it is the early jobbers, right? So 20
Early 20.
till 20 to 30 years old. That's the big chunk of it. Geographically, 30% are rural area. The remaining
In the
is still
more in the eastern part of
more. The 30% of it is on the east side of Indonesia. 70% still around the Java area. I think it's most probably is because of digital infrastructures out there, right? And then when you are talking about the like of Grameen banks, right? We do have such platforms in our ecosystem that focusing, so majority of us playing in community base, right? So some platforms are very specifically focused. There are platforms that specifically focus on distributor financing, the small supplier side. There are platforms that focusing on women empowerment. And I think need to be remembered because from our side, right, even in terms of onboarding, customer acquisition, there's a lot of effort in that area. Like Ibu Kiki mentioned, I think first and foremost, we need to be able to educate these people because again, they are in the bottom of the pyramid, right?
And they who mainly? I mean, you mentioned women, but they who? What do they do? What sort of job or how do they make a living? And if they're in the rural areas, what are they? Farmers or are they fishermen or are they?
We actually
just,
have a little bit of everything, right? For the example, for women, we have communities of women who making like snacks, selling them to the local
industry.
Yes, we have those people. We have the bottom of the e-commerce players. So they are the one who support the e-commerce players, something like that. So all type of the bottom of the pyramid. I think the keyword here is we are serving the bottom of the pyramids, right? They have income, but they don't really have the formal record, so they are able to get financing from the likes of conventional institutions. But we are able to do so because as long as they have digital footprints, then we will be able to onboard them and providing them to lenders.
Do you get them to upload their ID on the platform?
Yes, so it's part of the onboarding. So we have a simple KYC. So now with the Dukcapil in place, right, we have a KYC system. We access to financial records. We have the fintech data center. So there's a financial tracking in that area as well. So we use electronic signature. And we all part of a digital infrastructure.
Okay, just out of curiosity, how much is sort of the average amount that they borrow? And do you keep a track on what they use it for? And in terms of interest, I mean, I'm interested in, like Kiki said, the loan sharks, they'll never go away, but we want them to go away, right? But what sort of, the kind of interest and how do you make sure that they're not using the money for unproductive?
All right, we've been asked this
activities,
a lot, right? I think
online gambling, for example.
Yeah. So basically, right? Again, this is a first stepping stone for them. So what we're fighting out there is the type of loan shark, right? We definitely not fighting with the conventional banking. We're actually collaborating with them. Right? So in terms of pricing, you are right. We are quite on the high side. Why? Because again, the risks are really high and mostly our loans are very short tenors, right? From 3 to 6 months, right? Average amount is for consumer loans is 2 to 5 millions, but from the bigger segments, it could range from 20 million for probably women individuals owners up to 2 billion. Recently, there's been a push side from the demand side that for productive loan, we could go up into 5 billion rupiah, 5 million rupiah, in terms of certain conditions with the proper underlying and all that, right? So,
So it varies, but
it varies. Yeah.
Still well below what the banking loans normally.
Exactly.
And the lenders,
the maximum will be 5 billion, 5 million. That's
the lenders are who?
The lenders could be anyone. It could be you. It could be individual borrowers. But mainly now is actually, interestingly, now is mostly financial institutions as well. So again, we are collaborating with banks, right? The like of banks is also our lenders. It's actually benefiting both sides. It could be for them. We are actually just a connector, right? We connect the borrower's profile to the lender's RAC. Yeah, the risk acceptance criteria will be from the lender side.
Okay, just very quickly, what is the feedback from the users? Because one of the things that especially when you talk about literacy, you want to make things easy for people. You don't want to have lots of forms to fill and make them feel afraid, and if you don't pay back, and you're going to have somebody knocking on your door, taking away all your, belongings. I mean, what's the feedback been like? And
all right.
There's a reservation about using the platform, especially for first-time buyers.
Yeah, sure. I think to answer your questions, it will be good to look at the statistic, right? Realistically speaking, our growth is increasingly year by year. So I think that reflects.
So it actually goes up?
It goes up, okay. Right? Every year it goes up. So I think it reflects the demand is out there, it keeps increasing, and it's probably, we have silent majority, put it that way, right? We have silent majority, but I think there's so many hoo-ha from the illegal fintech platform, the pinjol. I think we see it in paper most regularly. That's why we put a differentiator now. We are pindar, they are pinjol, just to simplify things so they understand, right? Again, I think when we are talking about the grassroots economies, the dynamics are really, really interesting. So probably just a slight notes, right? Since again, Brooke and Mbak Ella talking about data infrastructure, which is true. I mean, like we need that. But I think there's basic fundamentals that we need to address too. Bu Kiki has been done a lot in this area, but I think everyone should have responsibility to it, right? For examples, in the field, right? Have you heard about Galbay movement, Mbak Desi?
No, enlighten me. What is it?
It's everywhere in the social medias.
All right, I'm not a huge user of it. I'm still sort of,
Yeah, so Galbay is actually gagal bayar, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a movement. So mind me, it's a movement. It means they have face to it. People are actually encouraging other people to, hey, we have this trick for you guys to not be able, so you don't need to pay your loan, right? And they have millions of followers.
And does that happen in your platform?
It happens in our industry, specifically targeting our industry. Again, because we are targeting grassroots economies, right? I mean, you can have all your digital IDs, which is great, right? But if you have that mindset of it is so cool to be able to galbay. That's how they picture it. It's so cool to be able to galbay.
So NPL is high in your...
Luckily, right? Again, we work with so many stakeholders. I think every time, Ibu Kiki's team is probably getting bored of me calling them all the time, right? So talking from NPL perspective, luckily our aggregate industry as aggregate is still below 4%, so it's 3% something, which is not bad, right? For a very risky industry.
Okay.
But need to have a very collaborative effort. That's why I'm very excited to be
well, that's why we have this forum.
Yeah.
The Big Idea Forum is all about collaboration. That's why we have, people from different perspectives.
Exactly. So you are telling, what about to customer acquisition, right? We need to have a very, out of the box ideas. We do, right? We have, I think Ibu Kiki also have the of TikTok platform, all the social media platform to use it, right? Yeah. But then how many of it goes viral? Because that's about mindset, right? It's about I think the grassroots mindset. There's a lot of homework need to be done.
I think this is a good, segue to Kiki, because, obviously we, as our themes is, we want to create economic growth because we have problems in this country. We want to make sure that, we can grow as a country, that 8% target can be achieved and zero poverty is, achievable. But at the end of the day, how do we do it? And with the challenges of having everything on the digital platform, and social media could be, of course, a good thing, but a lot of it can also be not so good. I didn't, so this gagal, it's concerning. Yes, it's concerning. Pinjol, when you have online, that
predatory lending,
basically,
right?
Yeah, it's become like it's a digital loan shark, activity, plus the online gambling aspect, plus shady financial, fintech companies that come and go, Tell us a little bit about what OJK is doing to address some of these challenges, plus the moral hazard and educating people against these, the TikTok.
Can I touch a bit on the digitalization first?
Yes, absolutely.
Because Brooke say that digitalization did magic things, like with the reach and also reducing costs. But there is an inherent risk with it. So it's our responsibility to protect community, our consumer, from the digitalization risk. So what we do as regulators in financial sectors, we have a regulation that make sure that all financial sectors that do the digitalization, they comply with certain rule and regulation that we impose to them. So to make sure that consumer who use the digital product is protected. That's first. That's all sectors, banking, capital market, insurance, financing, and everything. They have different, each regulation on that. From my side, consumer protection with POJK number 22, year 2023, we also say that all financial sectors, company that use digitalization, they are responsible for protecting their customer. So this, to answer your question as well, the trust is everything in financial sector. So from both sides, from the system itself, from the consumer protection, we also push together to make sure that digitalization that have all benefits, that we can see the number of financial sector customer increasing very well, but then we have to also pay attention to the risk inherent with that. That's first, Mbak Desi. The second one, I think digitalization, we are very proud of the innovation done by ourselves in digitalization. But the fraudster and scammer, they also innovate in this digitalization.
They're 5 steps ahead.
Right. So we try to protect people from this as well. So we first of all, the financial company said that's not our responsibility if they lost because they willingly giving the password, the OTP to the scammer. We said no. You have to accompany your customer because you already opened the portal of digitalization. You have to be with them to educate them about the risk and the danger of not digital literate with your password, with your OTP, with your personal information and everything. But yet we just launched what's so-called Indonesia Anti-Scam Center to protect consumer from this fraudster and scammer. So the number is amazingly, Mbak Desia. We just launched it in November. The people already report that they become the victim of the scam and the fraud is more than 100,000 people, just November last year. And the number lost is 2.1 trillion rupiah. I think it's so sad because you talk about economic growth, development and everything. We talk about market deepening. Instead of going to the formal and correct financial access, they go to fraudster and scammers. So sad. So digitization, I think we have to see from both sides. So we have to make sure that consumer and people are protected.
Yeah, and the ones that are vulnerable to be victims are actually the ones who are vulnerable economically. They have the least to lose. And these are again, victims of these scammers. You know,
Yeah.
they go for those who don't really understand. They go for the, you know, the old ladies, and they go for, you know,
Right,
the TikTok users
right.
that are really all over the country. But let's talk about, you know, you talk about regulations. I mean, here in this country, there's a regulation. There's always somebody breaking it. What about the you know, the upholding of the law aspect?
Yeah.
You see sort of, you know, closing down, putting people in jail. There's an aspect of, okay, I better not do this because Ibu Kiki will be there with the police and to arrest me.
Yeah.
Or, you know, there has to be that
Yeah.
aspect.
For regulation, we are very lucky that in OJK law number 21 year 2011, OJK get a mandate for protecting consumers. So actually we can do almost everything. We can ask for a financial company to pay back to the consumer if we can prove that they, you know, did the wrongdoing, like mis-selling, misconduct and everything. And also with the strengthening, development and strengthening law, number 4, 2023, we get also a mandate to combating illegal activities. But Jasmine mentioned about pinjol illegal, actually pinjol illegal, yeah. This year only, we already closed more than 1,300 illegal fintech peer-to-peer lending.
Wow.
You know, that is...
This
and also,
year?
Yeah, this year.
We're only entering May.
Yes. And also we closed like more than 200 illegal investment. So this is something that we really have to pay attention with. And the good thing is previously, before the Omnibus Law, the combating illegal activities is like a gray area, you know. Maybe they just, if they get caught, you know, like go to the like general law, like they only maybe like get 1 year or 2 year. And with this law, luckily, thank you to the government and parliament already passed this bill. With this, we get the mandate, yeah, the two that is new. First is market conduct. So as I mentioned before, company is not only you know, have to comply the prudential regulation, but also market conduct. This is also for protecting consumer. Those company who violate this can be jailed until 10 years and fined until 250 billion rupiah. And those who do the illegal activities like pinjol illegal, like you know, illegal investing, you know, like crazy rich that are already caught, you know, can be jailed until 10 years and 1 trillion fine, until 1 trillion fine. So we are working together under Satgas Pasti. We have Satgas Pasti, Mbak Desi, Satuan Tugas Pemberantasan Aktivitas Keuangan Ilegal, together with other 20 ministry and other regulators, with Bank Indonesia as well. We work together very closely with the police, Indonesia police. We just caught, like for example, one illegal investing who had, you know, promoting illegal activities, and then the fix is already there. Yep. So this is about law. Yeah, we're thankful that we have a strong law that is enable us to, you know, protecting more for the community. And
just very quickly before I throw to question and answer session to the audience, Brooke, I mean, the digital technology makes things easy, fast, access is, you know, we don't have to wait for anything. We do everything very fast, and you know, all about connectivity. But it also makes scamming easier, faster, and it can reach, you know, a much bigger segment of population. What can we do in terms of creating a digital infrastructure that focuses on protection, data privacy, and makes you know, the trust issue aspect?
I mean, first, before we talk about sort of the technology potential here to prevent, I think what Ibu Kiki has said really is important, right? It takes all the stakeholders working together, and so the changes in the financial sector omnibus law, the changes in OJK's authority on market conduct, the establishment of the National Anti-Scam Center that pulls together BI, OJK, Komdigi, the police and other authorities to address these issues that cut across the mandates of various institutions is incredibly important. So there's a non-digital foundation to this in regulation, in law, and then in the collaboration and structures that the government and the regulators provide that is absolutely essential. That said, there are tools, right? And so, going back to some of the earlier comments about ID, right? As the ID system gets stronger, you create barriers to fraudsters in terms of conducting fraud. But it's never going to go completely away. As you said, they were 5 steps ahead. They're innovating just as the innovative providers are in the market. And so one thing that we're working more closely on is what are the financial tools or digital tools that you can connect to the payment system, for example, to better prevent fraud before it happens, or if it does happen, to recover funds afterwards. And so including collaborating with the Ibu Kiki's team, as well as with BI and ASPI, the Payments Association, is looking at testing a solution that would, it's called money trails, that would track funds through the financial system. So after funds are fraudulently taken, it is very important that you act very quickly, right? And so if you wait an hour or 2 hours, the money's gone. It's left the country, it's been turned into crypto, it's been cashed out. And so you need to be able to respond very quickly. And so this product allows you to track the funds through the ecosystem, see where it's gone, pull it back. At the same time, you're able to identify what are called mule accounts that show which accounts are being used for fraudulent activities, and then OJK can close those accounts. And so they can no longer be used for fraudulent activities, so it makes it much harder then to commit frauds. And then as you collect this data after the fact, you're able to do better forecasting of where frauds might occur, what that looks like, and engage with use tools, machine learning AI, to train models that can be more preventative in nature. And so we do see that there's a very important human layer to this in terms of the systems and structures, organizations, financial literacy, and also there are digital tools that can empower those organizations.
And the digital tools can sort of enter the rabbit hole of the dark web.
Yes, and
this dark web, it's like once it's lost there, it's like going into the black hole. You don't know what's going on, and you don't know how to actually.
And I mean, and this is, and we, going back to your saying, well, should we have multiple, payment switches versus one? So the power of having a sort of a unified payment switch like BI Fast, for example, is that you're able to see all the money that flows through that, and you're able to connect, and you're able to sort of better track where the funds go, to the benefit of both the financial institutions and the citizens.
Just very quickly, will AI or can AI play a part in sort of, helping, address some of these issues?
I mean, well, I would love to hear the views of the other panelists on this as well. I mean, certainly from the foundation standpoint, and again, going back to this, we see technology as having the potential to solve the hardest problems, right? Not everything, there's still always going to be a human element. There's always going to be a systems element, but we see technology is playing a key role. AI is going to be one of those things, whether it's being an AI tutor, whether it's being helping in diagnostics and medicine, or in the financial system. And so it could overlay, preventing fraud and abuse. It also could be a financial literacy tool. It could also support underwriting and credit scoring.
And it can also be, the scammers. They use AI now to scam people.
Yes.
Like, if I can call you, Mike Kiki, and said, "Hi, it's Stacey Anwar. I'm stuck somewhere. Could you please wire me? Send me." And then you think it's me. That's quite scary. Well, let's have you taking part. Let's take questions from the floor. Anybody? I mean, you're still awake. I think everybody's so much in awe that there's like, okay, what else is there to ask? We have a microphone for Bufelia at the front here, and then after that we'll have you. Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Identify yourself. Who would you like to answer the question?
Julia Salim. I've been around in finance and banking for a little over 30 years. Super excited from all the discussion. I have two quick questions. With financial inclusion and a lot of digitization, do you still require the community organizer or community officers, facilitators, like the Grameen Bank? Or do you see there's a shift in using more tools in the analysis aspect? Second question, following up, AI related and data related, should we caution with regards to bias against women? most of the borrowings are still signed off by men, by husbands. So can you elaborate on that?
Who would you like to answer first?
Whoever you think is most relevant. I think you.
Okay, well, let's get everybody to answer.
I think Kiki also.
Okay, well, let's start with Ella.
How do you avoid biases, right?
With Yasmin. Yeah, let's start with Yasmin, Ella, and then Kiki, and if you want to.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Bu Velia. Prominent bankers, by the way, my guru, right? All right. Okay. I think the first questions is: do we still need to have that non-online methodology, right? You are spot on, Ibu, because again, the basic from financing perspective, right? The basic financing is still there. It's still 5 C's. Right, or 7 C's right now, right? Some of those C's we are able to shift it out to digitalizations with AI, but there are components, especially for the productive side, right, that we still need to do just to ensure, because we are connecting the lenders here, this is lenders' money, not the platform monies, right, to ensure all the C's are in place. Take for examples, the communities, fintech peer-to-peer lending, the women-led communities. Can I mention the brand, by the way? Yeah, one of them is in the audience, yeah, Amarta, yeah. It's a woman-led communities giving loan to women in rural areas. So they still have that people who monitor regularly. I think some are weekly, some are monthly, just to make sure the money is disbursed, not side streaming, to ensure the side streaming is not happening. So yes, there's still that component of non-digital in place. Yeah, I think that's for the benefit of the lenders. So that's question number one. Question number two, I think this fintech peer-to-peer lending is the right industry for this, because majority of our loans are non-collateralized. So if your question is exactly in Indonesia, I think most of the collaterals are held still on the man's name, right? Not the woman. Yeah. The woman just do the hard job, but not the collateral.
They work, but they don't get the credit.
Yeah.
Literally.
All right. So for fintech peer-to-peer lending, we are non-collateralized financing tools. So you are asking about demography just now. 51% of our borrowers are women.
Okay.
Yeah, hope that answers your questions.
Ella, do you want to add?
Yeah, I think just a quick one on the second question. In our book, we have one specific segment on migrant workers. This is a group where it's so vulnerable, where there's one real case study. So the migrant worker, the female migrant worker, she sent the money every month to the husband, but ended up when she went home,
No, it's gone.
It's gone, and the husband actually remarried again. Yeah. So he took all the money. So there's a real case around violence against women. What is happening actually now, that is the reason why technology here can be the enabler to protect these women. Because if she has her bank account under her name and she saves her money in various financial instruments, that's where the access usage comes from, and then she's getting the protection from all the available tools, then that's where we see the technology can actually help to prevent these cases.
Okay.
So it is a real issue, and thank you so much for bringing that, Ibu, because again, she has spent 10 years working and gets nothing.
And it's typical. I mean, we see it happening all over Indonesia, particularly since we have a lot of migrant workers who work, and they work very hard, and then they come back, and then it's like they have nothing to show for it. Kiki,
Thank you, Ibu Velia. Very well-known bankers, for your question. I'll touch on the AI. Yeah, we see that now, but they see many scam and fraudsters use AI. Like what you say, that people can call us, yeah, using the real face of our friend. That's really happening to me. Yes. So, but because I'm, well understood about this, then I know it's a fraudster. But it can happen to everyone, So we have to be careful on that. So we educate people, about the kind of scamming and fraud, and that new kind of fraud and scheme that we teach them everyone. And the previous question is whether we use AI as well. As a regulator, we have a subtech, yeah, because we now from my job is to look all financial companies. My colleague maybe see only banking, capital market, only insurance, but myself for the market conduct and consumer protection, we look after more than 2,500 companies, financial companies. So we use technology, we have subtech system, as well as we look at the advertisement. So because advertisement is very important because it is the gate of whether people get misconduct or mis-selling and everything.
Exactly, yeah.
So of course we need the help of technology and also AI. And Ibu Feli, for the women, thank you for asking this. Yeah, I think for some financial company also allow women herself to get like credits and everything. But if they're married, as along as my knowledge, yeah, if they can show the like prenuptial agreement, they responsible for themselves. I think they can. Right? You know better, like your bankers. And for women, yes, as I said before, we put women as one of the most priority segment to do education and inclusion. And women and about migrant worker, we also put migrant worker as our focus and segment because we have to educate them before they go. Yeah, they go abroad. Yeah, we open them account. Yeah, together with the ministry, and we give them education. Also, we went to Hong Kong. Many of Indonesian migrant worker there and other country, and we also educate them about fraud and scam. Be careful, and then. What do they do after they go back to Indonesia? Like to start a small business, to give them credit and everything. So I think it's a collaborative effort to protect women on finance sector. So I believe that financial inclusion must be a responsible one. Yeah. To not only giving them access, but also to educate them. So the financial sectors, the financial access, give them not only access, but to empower them. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting, but I do think that, just my personal view is that they shouldn't be like, just because you're a woman and you're married, there should be another step or another hoops that you have to go through. I think it should be just the same. I mean,
Totally agree.
Financial sort of inclusion means that you should be blind. It's like justice, you shouldn't, target people like, oh, because you're a woman, then you have to, have this prove that, you've got the prenup or a marriage certificate or whatever before you can, maybe this is something that you can invest. Anyway, be another topic for another discussion. Let's have, yes, silakan Bu Hermawati. Yeah.
Terima kasih untuk waktunya. Saya Bu Hermawati Setiorini, Ketua Asosiasi Industri dan Usaha Mikro Kecil dan Menengah Indonesia yang anggotanya sudah 500.000, 10.000 sudah mendapatkan pendampingan untuk akses KUR, termasuk dengan fintech. Kita sudah bekerja sama, hanya saja sesuai dengan inklusi keuangan bahwa setiap orang mendapatkan kesempatan untuk akses ya, baik itu berpenghasilan rendah maupun di desa, sesuai dengan aspeknya ya, dengan kegunaan, terus termasuk yang keterjangkauan, nah itu yang mungkin menjadi permasalahan yang harus diatasi. Saya tadi mendengar sudah menyampaikan apa yang terjadi di bidang masing-masing ya, hanya saja kan sekarang regulasinya. Anggota kita yang 10.000 mendapatkan KUR itu pada saat Covid itu 40% kolab. Ya, kolab dan itu dengan KUR kan tetap ditagih. Sementara programnya pemerintah mungkin OJK lebih tahu ada penghapusan hutang yang di mana KUR tidak mendapatkan. Ini sangat tidak adil buat kita yang UMKM karena justru yang benar-benar nggak punya aset yang ditolong, yang tersiok-siok enggak. ya. Sementara maaf sekali lagi, industri perbankan itu sendiri jika memberikan kucuran untuk program kurnya, mereka hanya ya udah, mereka yang penting bisa bayar, sudah dibantu pemerintah dengan penjaminan, tapi tidak ada edukasi tentang literasi keuangan, terus pengembangan SDM-nya. Nah, makanya dengan kondisi itu mereka ya itu tepat sekali lari ke pinjol, persaingan dengan fintech ya. Nah, itu yang membuat UMKM memang nggak bisa apa-apa lagi, itu menjadi solusi buat pelaku UMKM untuk mengembangkan usaha karena memang sudah mati ya, dianggap kalau sudah di blacklist mereka mati nggak bisa ngapa-ngapain, masih dikejar hutang meskipun secara regulasi bank tetap mendapatkan 70% dari sisa hutangnya UMKM itu. Nah, saya berharap mungkin ini masukan dan saya juga butuh solusi untuk anggota kami yang masih bersemangat untuk berusaha, mungkin juga dari fintech atau dari Tony Blair, dari Bill Gates ya, termasuk OJK ada regulasi termasuk pembatasan dalam hal yaitu pinjol. Kita kalau lihat saya kalau Instagram kita kalau udah tahu kita bisa langsung tuh batasin. Tapi kalau UMKM yang mikro ke bawah itu nggak akan tahu, dia langsung otomatis tertarik. Apalagi TikTok. Nah, itu mungkin juga harus menjadi regulasi bagi kementerian yang menangani itu. Itu mungkin masukan dan saya butuh solusi dari semua pihak. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak Bu Hermawati. This is the kind of feedback that you need, real life experience from the ground. And basically, if we do want to have financial inclusion, it has to be really inclusive. It has to actually reach the people that we want to help, and the micro, small, medium enterprises. Ini mungkin bisa dijawab dalam bahasa Indonesia juga nggak apa-apa, Bu Kiki.
Thank you, Ibu. We understand that government also put UMKM as priority, and we all regulators support that we have to enlarge the UMKM size in Indonesia and to help UMKM as well. So AJK now is working on the specific regulation on UMKM derived from the Undang-Undang P2SK. So just wait for that, Bu, because then in which we give like some regulation for banking sectors, how they must treat the UMKM, how they have responsibility as well to not only giving access but to also educate and everything. So just wait for that because we're working on it, Ibu, because it's mandated by the new law. So we are still having a discussion with Komisi 11 DPR RI. So hopefully they can answer the need of the people about UMKM and how financial sectors show our keberpihakan with UMKM. So just wait for that. Okay, Bu.
Are you happy with the answer? I mean, this is what this forum is about. This is an opportunity to actually have a dialogue.
Hanya saja kan kadang implementasinya itu Ibu, yang saya mungkin butuh pengawasan ya dari pihak OJK karena memang di lapangan enggak gitu. Nah, untuk pelaku usaha mikro khususnya yang masuk di asosiasi kita itu bisa terbantu dengan edukasi. Yang enggak, yang di luar sana banyak sekali. Dan itu butuh sekali negara hadir untuk tumbuh supaya ekonomi kita naik gitu ya, karena maaf dengan kondisi yang sekarang daya beli kita yang menurun, barang import masuk itu sulit sekali. Nah, saya berharap itu nanti bisa ditangani dari
and we will keep an eye.
Ini juga bisa membantu.
And I'm glad that the regulation is in the pipeline. Anybody else wants to chip in with that?
Ada satu yang mungkin kita bisa jadikan benchmark, Bu Desi, which is di infrastruktur itu Indonesia punya namanya Indonesia Infrastructure Guarantee Funds. Bentuknya asuransi. Jadi kalau ada kegiatan kejadian kahar gitu ya, dalam hal ini misal COVID ataupun gempa bumi, proyek infrastruktur itu di-cover asuransi oleh IIJF ini. Jadi mungkin kalau kita lihat inovasi yang bisa dilakukan secara real di sektor ini, kita bisa belajar dari apa yang dilakukan di sektor infrastruktur tersebut. Jadi mungkin salah satu solusi yang bisa secara real itu inovasi di produk asuransi sebenarnya. Itu salah satu juga yang mungkin bisa jadi nanti membantu, tapi asuransi yang memang juga dibantu oleh pemerintah. Jadi bukan serta-merta swasta ya, karena kalau swasta ada biayanya lagi gitu. Jadi mungkin itu satu yang bisa jadi kita masukkan untuk dari Tony Blair Institute akan memberikan masukan ke pemerintah juga. Thank you so much. It is a real problem.
It's good feedback. And
Terima kasih banyak Bu Ermawati. Sangat turut berempati atas keadaannya Bu. Terutama tadi Ibu highlight pinjol ya Bu ya. Karena memang pinjol ini tuh kayak candu Mbak Desi Anwar.
it's addictive.
Iya, very addictive karena kan dia tiba-tiba hadir saat lagi butuh muncul gitu. Kita sendiri tadi Ibu Kiki udah bilang Satgas pasti shutdown 1,000. On top of that kita contributing to that, on top of that kita juga udah kerjasama for the like of Google Priority Flagger, kita shutdown 400 within 2 months gitu. Tapi dia muncul lagi, baru muncul lagi. And unfortunately ini tuh bikin pusing kepala malah orang yang benar. Kalau orang-orang yang nggak baik karena again the first C is characters, right, in financing. Kalau tadi kita galbay, the first C-nya itu dia memang dari awal dia nggak mau bayar. Dia have the capacity to bayar, tapi by design dia nggak mau bayar. Itu dia nggak pusing sama pinjol karena memang dia nggak mau bayar gitu. Unfortunately pinjol ini malah orang-orang seperti member Ibu tadi yang they have the intention untuk bayar, tapi kapasitinya kebetulan belum ada karena zaman lagi sulit dan lain sebagainya. Akhirnya terjebak pinjol satu kasih, dia nggak bisa bayar, dia pinjam ke pinjol 2 tuh. Pinjol 2 untuk nutupin pinjol 1. Makin gede bunganya, pinjam lagi ke pinjol 3. In the end of the day, it's gali lubang tutup lubang, it will be an endless cycles. So I'm really prihatin Ibu dengar itu. Dari AFPI, kami itu punya rutin agenda Ibu. Tahun lalu kita 4.000 plus untuk keliling kasih edukasi dan literasi. By all means, mungkin habis ini nanti kami izin silaturahmi ke tempat Ibu dan member-member Ibu ya Bu. Dari sini kita tukar nama, saya juga bawa teman-teman tim tuh. Nanti mungkin habis itu kita kirim fotonya ke Mbak Desi Anwar. So, we'll follow up action.
Boleh Bu, nanti kita.
This is great.
Pasti tim Ibu kami bawa. Karena selalu ngerepot.
But actually, you know, when we talk about online debt, it's the C, they actually don't want to pay, they just want to get the money. But what do they use the money for? A lot of it is online gambling, which is another.
Exactly.
This is the other side of the coin here, Brooke.
Exactly.
You know, do you see this happening in other countries like India, where you have the ease of getting instant credit and then you use it to finance your addiction, gambling?
I mean, unfortunately, yes. And it's not the first time you've seen this in other countries. I mean, Kenya is, I was going to say a great example, a terrible example of this. In that, so it was M-Pesa, which was founded back in 2007, took off rapidly in Kenya. So it was actually, despite the low financial literacy rates, despite the low connectivity rates, you saw rapid deployment of mobile-based financial services, and all of a sudden people had access to basic payments. I mean, it was transformative for the economy and for people's lives, broadly beneficial. And also people realized that they were able to access credit and then use it for like things like gambling. And so gambling actually did become an issue. And remains an issue that has been reduced quite a bit through collective action by regulators, by providers and others to help reduce that. But it is a risk that you see here. And I think it's important that everyone work together to try to address it, because when we talk about financial services and access to credit or payments, it is because we believe in the broad benefit that they bring to individuals and communities and societies as a whole. They do come with risks, and so we need to manage that risk. I think, and I said this on the stage earlier this week, also with Ibu Kiki actually, there is a balance to be struck. So taking a risk-based approach to both regulation as well as credit provision, so that you are still allowing for the good that these products can bring to happen while trying to manage the downside risks. But it is a serious concern.
But just very quickly, how did Kenya address it? I mean, was they successful, or is it, because here I think it's just getting bigger and bigger, and because this whole thing it's a global, it's an international syndicate thing, this online gambling.
Right. Well, and
eradicate it.
And it's unfortunately we're never going to eliminate it, right? Gambling and addiction to gambling is an issue worldwide, right? And so it is not unique to Indonesia, Kenya, any other market. And so it will always take constant vigilance to make sure that people are doing as little gambling as possible. And so you're never going to be rid of it, unfortunately.
No,
However, with concerted action from the various players, you can reduce it through awareness, through prevention, through legal interventions, to make it much harder to gamble and make people more aware of the downside risk of gambling.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's a problem in many countries because of the easiness to access the finance sectors, what so-called over-indebtedness, kebanyakan utang, Mbak Desi. It's happening to many countries, especially in youngsters. So it become the attention of all regulators how to make sure that those people can use or access the finance sector responsibly. That's first. The second, I would like to address on the garbage things here. Okay, OJK have a very strict consumer protection regulation, but we're not protecting naughty consumers. So for the naughty consumer, we're not protecting them at all. So we also remind people if they, being irresponsible in the finance sectors, like they have a loan or credit, they don't want to pay, they will be recorded in our system. So later on, if they look for jobs, employment, they want to more credits, everything, their name is banned on it.
So there's a footprint.
Yes, so be careful on it.
Okay, one last question, and I know there's a gentleman. Yes, if you could please stand up, identify yourself, and who would you like your question to?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Hamas Nahli. I am from National Movement of Digital Literacy, Siberkreasi. We are a consortium, multi-stakeholder in digital literacy activities. So the question is, if we truly want talking about digital finance inclusion, it's necessary to put person with disability in context. I think approximately there is 8% person with disabilities in Indonesia based on social economic survey national. And how far we did the digital transformation inclusion to person with disabilities. We know there is social economic divide on person with disabilities and also digital divide gitu. And it's not only about accessibility on digital platform, digital physics. I think it's all about digital literacy too. We try to provide our service to improve their digital capacity, the cybersecurity, and more for person with disabilities. I think that's the question.
Yes.
Thank you so
Great
much.
point. Very funny. Well, financial inclusion, I mean, there has to be a clear definition, right? What do we mean by
Thank you so
including?
much. It's a very good question, yeah. So we doing the education and access for people, we make sure that no one left behind, including our brother and sister with disability. So we met with the National Committee on Disabilities. They talked to OJK that, for people like us, having like 2-3 bank account, insurance, it's just common things, yeah. But for brother and sister with disability, it's like a dream, Mbak Desi, to have like insurance policy, something like that. So we just had we launched what's so-called pedoman setara, pedoman disabilitas setara, berdaya. So we encourage all financial sectors to give the same access for everyone, including brother and sister with disability. So as you mentioned before, 8 or until 10% Indonesian people with disability with different kind of spectrum. So the challenge is because disability is many spectrum. So if we ask banking, for example, to give access for those who cannot work, they have to have like access with wheelchair, and for brother and sister with who cannot see, the blind community and others. So we work with the financial sectors to give the same access, equal access to everyone, including brother and sister with disability. So that's our promise that no one left behind on this financial inclusion in Indonesia.
Okay, Ella, is this part of the financial inclusion mapping study?
Indeed. So the disabled community is actually part of the 7 that has been regulated in the Presidential Regulation 114/2020. So we do have the government, they now already have that user journey for each of the disabled community. So there's a great progress there. Combined with the OJK effort, I think this will be another breakthrough. And I think that community that you have will be a crucial actor to play here.
Okay. Is AFPI, is your platform, inclusive?
Well,
Easy to use, friendly for disabled?
Yeah. So I think that's the beauty of being the tech side of the financial inclusion, right? Because the system is actually agnostic, right? It's non-biased as long as you have all the, digital ID, you can have the liveness detection and all that. We can onboard it and we can connect you to the right lenders. So I think, again, we are front and center of the financial inclusions, and truly appreciate Ibu Kiki, you've done so many in this area, especially the disabilities, right? I think we haven't got that before, but now you really put it out there that we really need to reach out to those percentage.
Well, this is where innovation and using, amazing technology can help, right?
And if I may, I actually would like to challenge my fellow panelist here a bit. I mean, so within the Gates Foundation, something we say which is relevant here is like, if you're designing for everyone, you're designing for men.
For men.
For men.
Because that's
the default.
minimum. Yeah.
And so you have to be thoughtful about who you're actually trying to serve. If you are not thoughtful about who you're trying to serve, then you're serving men almost exclusively. And so you need to be very intentional. Who is the user of this product? What are their specific and unique needs? And how do we design for those needs? And so whether it's people with disabilities or women specifically, there's an AFTEC survey. Actually, AFTEC has been collecting this data for, which is the FinTech Association, which is a sibling to AFPI. Did a survey of their members and asked, how many of you are designing for women? And I think, if I don't remember the exact number, but I believe it was about 25%, were thinking about women as customers as they were designing their products and their interfaces and their services. So less than a quarter of these firms were thinking about half of the population in how they design their products and services. And I would assume this translates not just to women, but also to people with disabilities. And so we do need to be thoughtful. And I'm sorry, Ibu, but when we say we're agnostic, it means that we aren't actually designing for those that are using the products. We're designing primarily for men. And so that's not what we want.
That's food for thought. Well, thank you for that, Brooke. But that means that it has to have, I'm going back there, it has to be innovation, and also understanding what it is that all the various groups
who your users are, and it is incredibly challenging. And I don't mean to minimize the challenge here and the cost to the providers to understand the unique needs of individual customers.
Well, maybe our friend the AI can help.
And actually, it might be able to, and so we're not there yet. But
get the algorithm, get the algorithm going. Okay, now I want to design for a woman of this working age and so on and so on. All right, well, time's up. It's been great discussion, but I don't want to leave you without your final remarks. Let's start with you, Yasmin. What would you like? What are the key takeaways you'd like from after listening to this conversation and discussion and feedback?
I was just about to take a look at my notes, but it's been called. No, I think in a nutshell, right, in AFPI, we really believe Asta Cita is not just a vision, it's actually a call for actions, right? And again, our DNA is created, this is a new industry, 7-8 years now. The DNA is created for financial inclusions, for connecting the dots and to ensure that no one left behind. I think it is important to understand the challenges are still out there. The noises are really huge, right? The voices are silent majority again, but we are committed to give everything to ensure the industry grows responsibly and we can serve many more people and make sure no one left behind.
And you're pindar, not
pinjal. Not pinjal.
Big difference, the psychological difference, although they both mean the same thing basically. Ella, let's have it from you. What do you think about discussion?
I'll go back to the 3 framework that I mentioned in my explanation earlier. Financial inclusion means 3 things: access, usage, consumer protections. On access, free digital ID so that we can give room for all these, financial service provider to add on extra cost on the customized persona, right? Disabled community, women, etc., etc. So access, that means government needs to provide free digital ID. Usage, provide more variety of products. That means we work with the markets, with the banks, insurance, addressing Ibu Harnawati's problem on the MSMEs protections, right? So that on the usage. Lastly, on the consumer protection, big kudos to Ibu Kiki and the team in OJK. But again, given the increasing threat, I think we need to use more AI to be able to 5 steps ahead than the scammers themselves. So that those are the 3 things that I wish we could have going forward.
Okay, and Brooke? No, let's have you first. I want to leave the best for last. Best for last, but
I won't be offended. No, I mean, first off, thank you for this conversation, and thank you to my fellow panelists and the audience as well for making this possible. You know, I think this has been a wide-ranging conversation, and yet there is a lot that we have yet to touch on. There are so many facets to thinking about how you drive financial inclusion and digital financial inclusion in particular. And so I'm sorry that we don't have a longer time to discuss, but I think, you know, Ibu Ella's comments were right on, right, in terms of how do we think about increasing access to use and trust in financial services and all of that takes. And of course, from the foundation, we do look first in terms of what is the digital foundations for that. We've talked a lot about ID, we've talked about payments. Looking forward, I really see Indonesia being a leader, and so I think this is where I think Indonesia can play a tremendous role in the region in terms of being a leader in this digital transformation for finance and for other sectors, and then also be then a teacher to other markets. And so you know, more South-South collaborations, less people like me coming from the global North, right, to talk about innovations and financial inclusion, and more Indonesia taking the lead, saying, hey, we've done this, we know how to do it, and we can work with other countries as well, and showing the way that reflects the deep challenges in Indonesia, the 17,000 islands, the hundreds of languages. And if you can get it done in Indonesia, you can get it done anywhere. And so I'm very optimistic about...
But your commitment is long-term, Gates Foundation.
Absolutely. I mean, so we've been supporting Indonesia in some way through our various programs for almost since we were founded 25 years ago, for financial inclusion specifically since 2012, and we're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay, and I'm leaving you last. I'm sorry, it's not the best for last, but I'm leaving you last because the burden of the onus is on you as a regulator. No, because this is it. You know, good policies is key, and you know, for things to be implementations obviously is super important, but without good policies, and we rely on you to create the right ecosystem and the environment for financial inclusion.
Thank you so much, Mbak Desi. I think also I would like to say thank you to you and all the team of Big Ideas for bringing this topic very timely. My closing remark is, if we talk about financial inclusion, let's talk about responsible financial inclusion. This from every part. Like from financial entities, they have to be responsible. From the customer perspective, they also have to be responsible when they do inclusion in financial sectors. So the responsible financial inclusion will support the sustainability in this inclusive finance for everyone. And it will also support the stability of financial sectors. Because if we talk about everything, we have to mention about financial system stability. And lastly, with the responsible financial inclusion will help to achieve Asta, Cita, and also to reach our national long-term goal in Gold Indonesia Emas 2045. So responsible financial inclusion, Mbak Desi.
And 93.3% by 2029 is achievable. You're optimistic?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Especially President Prabowo already mentioned that he wants every single person in this country have bank account.
Okay.
Incredible.
And everybody's nodding. You all agree that it's achievable. Well, it's good to end the discussion on a high note of optimism. So big hands, please, to our amazing, insightful speakers, Yasmin, Ella, Bukiki, and also Brooke. Thank you very much. And of course, thank you all for such an amazing audience, wonderful questions. And like I said, you know, the Big Idea Forum is a forum for collaboration, and we've heard from government regulators, global development partners, policy strategists, and entrepreneurs, all with a common message, which is financial inclusion is no longer optional. It's essential if you're to build an Indonesia that is resilient and prosperous. From the need to reform market conduct and build public trust to the opportunities of digital infrastructure and tailored policies for vulnerable communities, we now see more clearly that inclusive finance is a complex but achievable national ambition. Collaboration is key to producing good policies, is what I always say in the Big Idea Forum. So let this forum be more than just a discussion. Let it be a catalyst, a spark for real systemic change that ensures no Indonesian is left behind in our journey towards Asta, Cita. Thank you. See you in the next Big Idea Forum. Bye-bye.
In association with